No, I didn't leave India until I was 8. Yeah, so it's up to 8. Anyway, but I went back with my oldest granddaughter. We were just looking it up. I have pictures, so I'll just can bring them up for you. We went back in 2017, I think, 10 years ago, to India.
What part of India?
Just finished a degree and was in touch with some Indian people, and I've had a week or more about that. They bring people in for dinner sometimes. You all have to attend evening meal, but the rest of the day is yours. Anyway, this Indian was sitting beside me, and somebody was doing something about it or something. And in Indian, I said to him, "Are you an Indian from London or from India?" He said, "Oh, from India. I live in New Delhi." We got talking, and I was saying that I'd love to go back, but it's difficult to know where to go. Then the next time there was a break, he said, "I've been thinking about you, and I have a great friend who is setting up an art centre in the province where your father worked." And I give an email. So anyway, we got in touch with this art centre, which is lovely. And after I'd more or less ended the tour by going to where I lived when I was little girl, we found the house and everything. I booked for 2 weeks at the art centre, and Maureen, for 4 days, she was going on to do her world tours. And she was eating a school friend in Perth and then going on. So we both went to this lovely art econ. So anyway, that's sort of the first sort of big pictures I saw really was when my mother dumped me at this convent where there were these white dressed nuns. They were French nuns, and this nun sat me on her knee, and she had this huge book of holy pictures, and she was talking about the stories. So I learned French without realizing. And I also was mad about the pictures, because a lot of them were known classical painters. And so then when we were eventually back, it took quite a long time because I was sent to school for a little while, about a year, Switzerland, to get used to the climate. And so my parents were able to go and find a house. So anyhow, when we eventually got to Delgany, where I grew up, my mother discovered that I really had no primary education at all. So she got a live-in governess, but she was great at English grammar and maths and things, but not general education. So my mother signed up to this Parents' Educational Union. And they sent all the stuff you needed, books and everything. And they sent a pack of 8 better prints of Old Master, said, and they changed it every sort of to trimester. And they were all really known Old Masters. And they said, just put these flat on the table in front of the child first thing in the morning, and don't comment, leave the child to look at them in depth for 15 minutes, then take them away and do this every morning. And so that's where I started to really learn, because I was seeing the way it worked, because there was no distraction of colour. You had just looked at the pattern that the picture made and the way different parts of it sort of related to other parts. So I was learning sort of something classical without realizing. Yeah, so that was lovely. So we had a sort of tissue then. Van Eyck was one of my favourites. And then later on, when I was completing my studies of French, I did an exchange in Ghent. And the original of the Adoration of the Lamb, it's a big, big trick, big, was there in the church just up the road. And you could go right up to it. You know, they hadn't put lit railings or anything yet. And so that was like, it's like meeting an old friend. So that
I mean, one of the things maybe she's instilled in all of us is curiosity. You know, I mean, I think if you have curiosity in life, I think that keeps you going. If you're framing questions and asking questions of yourself and of others and of, you know, where you live and why you do what you do, you know, I think that you know, helps. And she was always very intellectually outgoing as well, our mother, you know, and very excited about new ideas. I mean, it's hard to think back to when she grew up, but one of the things was, I was saying, you know, the whole thing of not being able to access certain kinds of information at the time, the way we can now. You know, we didn't have the Internet of Things then. So that thing of finding information and learning about what's possible in the world, you kind of had to do that through your own curiosity, but it also depended on context. So our mother, you know, she didn't go to formal school until she went to secondary school. So she was kind of homeschooled really up until that point. And she said she didn't learn to read and write. She didn't learn to write until she was like 9 or something. You know, so she had a huge amount of freedom. And in a way, I think she gave that freedom, maybe not on purpose, but she gave that freedom to my brother and I because we had 2 older sisters, and I think she worked much harder at parenting them. Not that she didn't work at parenting us, but just by then, you know, she was just trying to make it work and busy and things. And so we got given a lot of freedom, you know, security. My father was he was somebody who loved, you know, he had kind of rituals. He was a ritualist, I think, really. And so, you know, he was very good company. He was a great conversationalist, but he liked being quiet too. So you could spend the day with him reading, and then at a certain point, you know, he'd just say, "Well, will we have a cup of tea now?" You know, and we'd have our cup of tea, and then we'd read some more, or we'd go for a walk together. You know, but he was quite, he was very consistent, quite predictable, and I think that gives, you know, that gives children a lot of security when somebody's kind of quite predictable. And I remember asking him, you know, well, in America, I remember people saying, you know, did people not have a problem with you becoming an artist, you know, because, you know, it wasn't seen as a very profitable thing to decide to do. And I remember saying, "Oh yeah, no, I talked to my father about that, and he said, well, we didn't mind what you did as long as it made you happy, you know, and you could support yourself, you know." So that was he's very outgoing, you know, very. She's very funny. She's you know, one of the things that's kept her alive as well is her determination. You know, so I mean, she only had her 99th in April, and a friend of ours happened to be oh uh, in Dublin, and anyway, it turned out that my mother was already negotiating her 100th celebrations when she was 99, you know, so she's very kind of optimistic. Um, so, yeah, no, I'm sure we do something very, very special. And yeah. One thing that was and still is very special about our mother is her humour. So even when we were small, she loved certain stories. So she loved Paddington Bear and Winnie the Pooh. But when she was kind of reading those stories to us, she would kill herself laughing. I mean, she really just thought they were the funniest things. And she still gets into this frame of mind where she looks at things and she just thinks some things are hilarious. And yeah, I was just with her last week and there's a picture of the two of us together, but my mother's just killing herself laughing, at something or other that we thought of, together. And she's great. She's great company. I love just going out and, it's just about an hour and a half from here to go see my mother, and we have tea together and conversation and just have a lovely time chatting about things, and sometimes she starts killing herself laughing. And my brother says it's very funny. He now lives with her, and one of the things she does is she has Bluetooth on her hearing aid and she connects that to her iPad and she reads. And she reads all the time. That's her kind of thing that she does every day. And sometimes then it's dinner time, and so my mother will go in and sit at the table, and then she starts laughing at the table, and Richard realizes she hasn't turned her book off. And that was something that we were never allowed to read at the table. It was a real no. And then there she is. But I think when you get to 99, you should be.
There's a little, there was a little gallery there. I don't remember the name of the gallery. Anyway, I had a first show there, and Dad gave me courage, so then I went on and started showing etching. And I was a member of we were members of the Arts Club, and you could always show there. That gave me confidence. I'm still painting as well, because I used to submit for living art. In the early days, I remember it's so part of history now. The riots, when they first set up the Irish exhibition of living art, they invited, there was Jack Hanlon and Minnie Jarrett and what's her name, McGuinness, and Pat Scott, a few of those of our crowd, and probably Michael Scott probably helped as well. They invited continental painters from Belgium and Germany and things. The church decided that this was probably immoral thing about being nudes, and the papers got hold of it, and none of them had been into the exhibition, but they got the whole thing banned, and they got people to preach against this. Anyway.
See her. Well, first of all, Mo West is a bit like a whirlwind. She just is constant energy. It has never kind of decreased in all of the years. A lot of people, when you mention her name, they think she must be dead, but she's far from it. She is very much alive and also inquisitive and enthusiastic and certainly passionate about what she does. It's a constant voyage of discovery for her. So printmaker, I would know her primarily as a printmaker, and she was able to make prints on a very massive scale compared to most others. Very ambitious, technically very, very fine work indeed. And while she would regard that as kind of fairly normal, others just would be terrified trying to attempt doing something like that. No, she hasn't been able to make prints for a while, but it's only not long ago that she discovered charcoal, for example. And she suddenly loved all the freedom and the movement that it gave her. And indeed, I was talking to John Behan recently, and he had left her a few days before, and she presented him with a drawing that she had just made. It's very thrilling to think of her making that age, but still working and still trying to make artworks and to be creative. And Mo is forever young, as I say, and inquisitive and searching and organizing others as well. It is no surprise to me that her passion for art and creating has come down through the generations, because she literally bursts with enthusiasm when she's talking. Loves helping other artists, loves making suggestions, encouraging them, sometimes buying their work, in fact, as well. A complete artist, really. Yeah, she's one of the most important things to happen in Connemara for a very long time. First of all, it's been two-way traffic in that it's the place. It's the place that has really inspired a lot of her work. But her approach to it is very different. Now, it's fair to ask, how do you paint Connemara, for example? There's a million different ways. We all see it very differently. And that's what we would want with artists as well. She certainly sees it differently. But she has become a major influence on younger artists in that area as well. Because she doesn't bludgeon people into doing things. She encourages all the time. And so her influence is much wider than we all suspect. And we all love her for it. We all love her anyway.
Used to, Annette lived in Dorky, and she used really qualifiers, had a lot of Yates prints, and they were tinted. And she used to get artists to tint them, because she had a store of the line drawing, and I did that for pocket money for about 2 or 3 years. And I got to know amateurs of the she's not the first. Now the president is Margaret earlier in the, I think the 30s or something. But it's interesting. What an interesting family. They all did something in the art world, the writing and the anyway. When we got back from England, I was in England for nearly 11 years. And we, after I married, I went to Glasgow. And then my husband was working for one of these accounting firms, and they kept moving us. So then we were sent from Glasgow to London, and I thought, oh, great, I have a garden flat. But he was told by his family, no, you have to go and live in Yesha, near your brother. And they hated it. Those gated communities, nobody talked to. Anyway, we were then sent to Edinburgh, which we loved, and Richard and Catherine were both born in Edinburgh. After my first child, I had all my children at home. There were wonderful services over there. And it was much more humane, because Mummy wasn't away for 3 or 4 days. Suddenly you were just in the room, and then you were brought to see the new baby. It was sort of just to happen. And so that was lovely for the kids and things. And in Edinburgh, they had a wonderful team of midwives. So you got visits all the way through your pregnancy. So they would alternate with the visits to your doctor. So you were sort of followed through for the whole night. And the nurses became part of the family, because it was really, so that would say that. So I really didn't, foolishly, I didn't want to go and join my classes in the art school. I thought they would all know more than me. And anyway, I was pretty busy with the small children, and we did other things, which was at the end, because there's lots to go and look at in Edinburgh, lovely galleries and things. So the children grew up looking at art, which was great. And then we came back in 1967 and settled in North. And so that was very successful. It's such a lovely place to be, and we were just one road further from the sea, and we were just in the cul-de-sac parallel to the Connemara Road, where Sebastian Barry's last book is set. Moving with I used to run in the mornings early, and I passed that old castle thing every morning. So and the seafront, so I had the pier and the little harbour, which all featured in his third book, which is which one we had 9 years, I think, no, 13 years ago. Then they were starting to go to third level. We near the end of the eventually said, the train is too early. I can't go back to college in the evening. And so I thought, but 3 more to come. So we thought we should move into town. We were very lucky. We found a house in Pembroke Lane, which is just parallel to Pembroke Road. And so everyone could walk or cycle to their various places of study. And so 2 of them went to art school, 2 of them went to Trinity, were more academic. The eldest one went into publishing, so that's a career. And Caroline won a sort of internship in France at one of the Connemara postgraduate schools called Cashel, just on the edges, and they wanted her to develop a sort of drama study group because she was very interested in production, stage production. She was there for a year, and they said, come back for another year. She met her husband there. So she has spent her whole life in France. She left in 22 and met Catherine came along, and she studied drama for 2 years as well as art. She was at NC, and that meant that she learned to articulate very well, and as you know, her speech is really dramatically understandable, and her voice carries without any effort. And that was due to her studies. She decided then literary art was the one to follow.
Consideration? No, I chose wood because my mother, when I was very small, found an interesting way of using childcare to her advantage. She worked in the Newry School of Art and Design at the time, and she used to teach some night classes in there. And when I was about 8, instead of leaving me with the babysitter, she would bring me there, and she signed me up for the wood carving class when I was about 8. So she would leave me into wood carving, then she would go and teach her class, and then she'd come back and pick me up afterwards. So that was quite nice. But I learned a lot. But similarly, when I was much smaller, when I was, probably about 7, I would do pottery every Saturday with my sister, and that's become my sister's career. For me, I like pottery, but I moved into wood, and I enjoy doing that. But it's more the mindset of making things, of exploring, of questioning things, of wondering, well, why can't you do it this way? Why can't you do it that way? What would happen if I do this? What would happen if I do that? So that's something that we were very much brought up with, the idea to question things, to try a different way of doing things, to look at things differently. And I think that's very much an evidence through the work of everybody in the family. This idea of, well, if somebody does it this way, why can't I do it a different way? Why can't I see that from a different point of view? Why can't I make this object into a nicer object by bringing something to it, by exploring it a little bit more in an interesting way? So that's something that would have been very evident growing up. To a degree, yeah. He was very interested in music, mainly opera. So I mean that has a dramatic flair to it. My mother and father actually met at the Edinburgh Opera Festival. That's where they met. So they met through a kind of I suppose, a cultural moment. And he was always very interested in that. But he was always very supportive. He liked the arts. He enjoyed painting. He enjoyed all those things. His father was an avid painter. He was what they called at the time a copyist, which would have been, I suppose, a fortune by today's standards. He recopied old masters, and that was his passion. So yeah, it's always been something that's always been present. Uh, when you grow up in a family like that, you don't. It's not something you see straight away. But because you're always around things like that, a lot of my friends when I was very small would have been children of other artists, and so it's something that you consider completely normal. When most people look at their career options, they might consider, and to a degree, whatever their father has done or mother has done, what's in the family. Doctors, children tend to become doctors or whatever. So in our family, going into the arts wasn't really considered anything unusual, whereas in a lot of families it would have been. So for our family, when I decided I wanted to apply for art college, it wasn't a big shock to anybody.
She was like our mother figure. She kind of, she was the person with a lot of sense. She was older and very knowledgeable.
Yes. I always think of Mo as, she was like and sounds a bit poetic, but she was like the North Star she was the one who was sort of there, determined, enthusiastic, always, well, just get on with it and do it. That one might have one's wobbly moments, but Mo was always so full of energy and I'm careful not to put this in the past tense because she actually still is. There's nothing you can say about Mo that isn't still true of her now. She's still as enthusiastic, she still is determined and everything, and she doesn't.
She's a light.
Yes, she's a light. Well, she always seems to take inspiration from where she lives in the west of Ireland. I mean, I always think of Mo's work as being from there. Although, I mean, she obviously hasn't lived there all her life because she was based in Dublin. But they had a house there for a long time, and it is very much, I think, comes from the landscape of the area. And I remember we went and stayed out in her house. She took us walking across to the islands, to Omni Island, and you can walk to the island when the tide is out. So we walked out there and then walked around, and she just seemed to do a lot of drawing there, and I think of her when I think of her prints. They're always those ones that are from
that area.
From Connemara, and that's all. But I always think as somebody who just really always determined, really enthusiastic, full of energy, and just a can-do person. No time for just. Well, she wouldn't put it in those kind of words, but she would sort of like just get on with it and do it, and don't be.
She doesn't win. She just gets on with it.
Yeah,
and yet she's still great fun.
Yes.
She's got that sort of the work ethos and the fun.
Well, I think if I'm going to say something to Mo directly, I think Mo, you've always been an incredible inspiration. You've always set a really good and positive example for me personally. That this is how one should be an artist.
Yeah.
Catherine and Richard, when they were very small, and they used to bring their toys and play on the stage, and they set up their art classes in the sort of, that's what you call it, the also was a large room where they had the lectures or whatever, as well as gymnastics and things. So it had a stage and a very big auditorium. So we had lovely nights. I used to teach there once a week. And that was fun. Then eventually, Margaret became redundant in his job. And I actually had to get a permanent job. So I started teaching at night in nearly teaching half night classes. So I knew the organising. I went with the Travel Scouts and I said, I really need a full-time job. How do I do that? They said, well, you have to do the government exams. And I said, okay, put me down for all of them. So there were intermediate and advanced, and so I did all those, and I got my place in the teacher training college in Dublin. And so that's how I came to do acting, because we had to do 2 arts, 2 crafts, and as well as painting and sculpting. Great fun, because I'd just done play modeling for fun. As a child, I had some clay and stuff, but I didn't. It wasn't something that attracted me as a full-time thing, but I knew how to model, so I did my sort of relief one, and that was okay. And then I decided for the advanced one to do a 3D, because the model was extremely good, and I thought, I can do this. She stays still, that she has very distinguished features. So I did that, and then the rest of the people who were sitting there for all of about this exam said to me, how are you going to cast that? And I said, cast? What do you mean? They said, you have to make a model of it, that is in plaster. I'd never heard of it. I asked about it, and then I went home. I'd taken lots of drawing. I rang up a friend who knew Hillary, officer. I used to beg her and agree with her. I said, do you think I can call her, ask for help? Her friend said yes, so I called her and I explained my problem. She said, I do. She said, I spoke as voice. She said, I do think you have a I told you better come and see me. So she met me on the steps with me, glass of whiskey, brought me in, and she said, now, I'll tell you exactly what to do. Don't question it, just do it. And so she told me from scratch how to prepare the 3D. She said, take some beer cans and cut them up and stick the tin foil, that's a tin thing, in all round. And then as you're building up the clay round your marble, stick in bits of fabric. You'll cut up husband's underpants. It was very funny. Anyway, what she said, she said, make a sort of barrier on 3 sides of your work, and make sure that you put lots of wet clay everywhere, because that will take the water. So anyway, I did all of that, and the whole thing worked. The other students helped me hold it while we ran the water of it, and it did come up and work. So I was did that, and so I got my certificate, so then I could get a full-time job, and I'd been doing my training hours in Dublin, and then the summer home, and so I got the full-time job in Dublin, so I was very lucky, and so I taught there for a long time.
Even though I was one of the younger grandchildren, so she was in her 80s nearly into her 80s when I was born, which is, I find that fun to think about. But I think the first time I kind of became properly aware is just seeing how much stuff she has, such a collection in her house, particularly all the stuff from India, all these collections. I was like, oh my god, like she's lived so many lives, it's absolutely amazing. And then when she received her Lifetime Achievement Award, I think that was, I can't remember when that was, it was years ago, but it was like this big celebration just for her. I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. Yeah, definitely encouraging, makes you want to strive. I actually, in my undergrad, I actually managed to interview Mo, and I collected a couple of her stories, especially from growing up in India. I did an ethnographic project on her, and so I got to ask her about her childhood in India, her relationship with her father, what her perception of his work was, and then how she found adjusting moving back to Ireland. So it's just a font of knowledge. Like if you go to her house, she'll show you the photo albums of her life in India and up until she was 8. But one thing I find really interesting about the photographs is a lot of them, me and her we don't look alike at all now, but in the pictures of her when she's younger, we look really similar. It's kind of eerie, but no, I wouldn't say intimidating. I think she makes you want to strive to do more. Yeah. No, she's absolutely amazing. Like, even if you ask her about the smells of India, she'll be able to tell you the smells. Even though she was 8 when she left there. Obviously, she went back when she was, I think she was either 82 or 80 or something like that, when she went back. But her memory, her recall, she can remember her dog when she was over, the name of her dog. Like, I don't think a lot of people would be able to remember those things. But no, she has meticulous memory. Yeah, she's so exact. Even if you have conversation with her and you say, oh yeah, I'll do that for you later. But I think she'll be like, you told me you'd do that later. Whereas a lot of people would let aside. She'll be like, no, you told me we'd go and do this. And she'll make sure you do. She holds everyone accountable. Me and Mo, we love to gossip. And I know she'll appreciate the gossip. So I would tell her all my gossip, even in college. I'm a bit boring now, but we used to have serious gossip sessions. And like, I don't know, I won't be calling anyone out, but she's like, girl sounds very troubled, she needs to watch out. Different things like that. But she loves telling about her stories, she loves telling about her visitors. When we hang out, we're both very into our fashion, and Mo's like, I'm not wearing earrings. I'm like, oh god, we're gonna put earrings on you. So yeah, little things like that. I've gotten Mo into iced coffee. She doesn't let, if you go out to a restaurant with her and there's ice in her drink, she's like, sorry, I don't want this, but she does. She's into an iced coffee, and so she loves that. We've also introduced her. Well, I have to girl dinner. You know, and you're not feeling like having a proper dinner, so you have lots of different things. So like you have your olives, your cheese, your crackers, different things like that. But yeah, no, we love to gossip. We love watching. I got her to watch Father Ted the last day, on her iPad. But yeah, no. Sometimes I get her to watch funny shows or little podcasts. One time I got her to try listen to My Therapist Ghosted Me with Joanne McNally. She's a comedian, and Vogue Williams. I don't think it was really her cup of tea, but she tried it and she laughed a little bit. But yeah, no, she's brilliant. I don't know, Mo, she's the most amazing person ever, but one thing I found very interesting about her from a young age is the fact that she got us to call her Mo. She was never Granny, and she will never be Granny. The amount of my friends who call their Granny, I think a lot of them didn't know their grandmother's name until a very late age, but they know them as Granny, Nana, whatever thing. Mo was like, don't call me Granny, it makes me look old. Unless, because everyone I talk to, they know her as Mo, I'd introduce her as Mo. I probably could. Granny just feels really unnatural. She's just my Mo. Yeah, no, I don't think Granny's just. But it was the same with my other grandmother. They're just. I feel like that's either your thing or it isn't. But no, she'll just always be a Mo, not Granny. But she's so much more, obviously. Yeah.
And we have, as I said, 160 members and plus, and our eldest member is a wonderful old friend of mine, Mo West, Margaret Irwin West. She is, safe to say, the eldest member at the age of 99. And I first met Mo, I think maybe it was 96 or maybe even earlier, 94. I moved to Connemara in 96, but I met her on some kind of a research trip to Achill Island. There was some sculpture symposium or sculpture commission. We were there to research some project, and I just remember being struck by the energy of this
older woman. I thought she was old at the time. She was probably just in her 60s. Um, and then when I moved to Connemara in 96, I think she moved here at a similar time. And now Mo is a member of Interface, and like I say, she's our eldest member. Um, she's really treasured member. Very, she's she's just got such a sense of curiosity and always growing and curious and learning and trying new things. And it was that year, I think, that we sang Happy Birthday to Mo for her. I think it must have been her 95th birthday. We all had a bit of cake and a candle in all these different countries all around the world and sang Happy Birthday to her, which was really lovely. But Mo was very much, again, in the thick of that. And following that, she developed great friendship with Orla McGovern and Lilia Ní Cochhuil, and they did some work on Omi. They walked out to Omi Island and developed some really beautiful strands of work from that with Mo. And yeah, I mean, I think this community has been important to her as she's been important to us. So I just want to wish Mo a very, very happy birthday for her 100th birthday. You're a total treasure and an inspiration to us all. With your wonderful, warm energy and generosity.
I'll never compare to be able to keep a discipline in the class, but I did, and I used to. They sort of use experiments and things. I experimented with all kinds of things with the students and taught them how to cast smaller things that they made. And then we used to go down to the art school. The school was in Dunedin, just the other side of the old bakery where the art school was. So we cast them down there. And I taught them screen printing. So we needed, um, the screens. So I went down to the woodwork teacher and said, "Could you make these as part of the curriculum?" And so he said, "Why not?" So we had enough screens that everyone had, every two people at least had one. And we took all the material down to the quays and down there, one of the car parks of the yes, yacht clubs. I also car to a staple. So we stapled all the such as the cheapest one for the yacht anyway, it all worked. So they learned how to create a third colour from colours put on top of each other, and it was really interesting and it was fun to do. So I put them all in for the honours art in Leaving Cert, and they really did awfully well. And one of them came back to me after we left school and he said, "I went for a job with a paint company, and because I understood how colour works, I got the job, and that's thanks to the classes. It's nice to get that." So anyway, so I was nearly 10 years of teaching in Dunedin because I taught in the ordinary Turk from the first year to sixth year, and then I moved to the art school and taught art history for 5 years.
Yeah. So I really want to do a portrait of her. I actually started doing the chalk pastel. I was there with her for summer. I was staying at her house for the summer, and I started chalk pastel, and I realized how much I enjoyed it. and I really want to do a portrait of her. But because she's such an unusual woman, it couldn't just be. She couldn't just be sitting down. It wouldn't be right for her. And so you can see she has that green soup. So she'd have this green soup every single day for lunchtime, and it was very disgusting. It has lots of seaweed and garlic and all sorts of things. But she swore by it, and so every day she would have that. And so yeah, so then I asked her if she would pose for me, and so we kind of worked together with putting my camera into the microwave to get that viewpoint of her, really putting it in, being really like thrilled about it. So yeah, that's how. Well, I think it's funny because we didn't actually we once we did classes together. We did one class one day after me begging her when I was younger. I was 14 or something. And she sat me down in front of a fruit bowl and said, "Okay, draw that." And then she sat back and opened the newspaper, and that was it, really. So I was like, "Okay, never mind." But when I was younger, she had the studio downstairs in her house, which is the studio that I use now. So anytime I was there, I would go downstairs and I would watch her making her plates, etching. So all that very, very fine drawing, and then inking her plates and printing them. And usually they're very kind of very dense with detail of Connemara landscape. So I think that translated in some way of just observing. I think that definitely kind of comes across with trees and rocks and her kind of signature things. Yeah, definitely. Even now when I'm working, she'll come down and say, "Okay, what are we working on today?" So we're still, no matter what I'm doing, we're working together, And it's a great kind of energy. And I can come to her for anything and say, "Okay, what do you think of this?" And she'll turn into kind of a teacher, professional mode, and be like, "Okay, this is wrong. You should do this, or you should try this." And it's nice because we've all, between myself and my dad as well, we've all kind of built up this thing of we can kind of sometimes you don't want anyone to critique your work because it's not finished or you don't like it or whatever. So then, if someone tries to give me a comment, we kind of just say, "Okay, shut up, we want to talk about that now, no business." But then sometimes I can say, "Okay, I need a critique on this, like professionally tell me what you think of this." And that's when we can really kind of discuss things without any feelings of kind of not wanting to hurt anyone's feelings or anything. It's very kind of professional, which is nice. So we can really get that feedback as we're both artists now. Yeah, I mean, I think it kind of always does come back to it. Kind of annoyingly, I think at some point we have to say, "Okay, we need to stop talking about it." But it is nice to have such a thing in common, and I think we're all at different stages of our art careers. I mean, Mel obviously has a lifetime of experience, and Catherine is, incredibly well known in her field. Amazing ceramicist, and which I really appreciate as well because she's also coming from an educational point of view as a lecturer as well. So she has a very different approach when we're discussing art, and also because she uses a different medium. And then with Dad, obviously he started wood turning about 7 years ago. So it's funny, we're kind of at the same level in our careers where we're starting everything off, which is quite funny. Although he's gotten very good very quickly, so he's kind of wrapped it up, which is great.
So she has the installment, which is a mark of respect towards an artist. And of first status, she fully deserves it. Her work is wonderful. She's kept working all her life, and she's an example to all of us. But anyway, we became very friendly at that time, and we're very good friends. I see her very often. I'm a great admirer of herself and her work because it's her spirit that keeps her going. In her, she reads a lot. She's extremely well read. She can talk about any subject, and her mind is very active. And it's admirable in somebody of her age. You're not dealing with somebody who's, expected to be fairly helpless, and she's not like that at all. And it just shows you if your life is based on creativity and with an open mind, you just seem to live longer and more fully than people who are, they work in a job till they're 65 or whatever. They retire and they don't last very long, unfortunately. Mo is a great example of somebody who's been open-minded, well-read, well-researched into it, lived a full life, reared a family, did everything that people are capable of, and still is in the high stage of creativity, at the age of 99. She goes out, and nobody else that I know of has been able to get there onto High Island, which is almost impossible to land on. But Mo hired a boat and went out there, and she stayed there and did studies of the landscape and the remains. There was a church there, and monks lived there, and she caught all that. She's wonderful. I mean, the way she's able to have the endurance and the determination to go there and do all that. I don't know of anybody else who has that kind of ambition and sees it through. I just say, well done, Mo, and you deserve everything you're going to get on your 100th birthday. Yeah, I just wish her well. And may she have a great future in front of her. Yes, my father was from Roscommon, but I had never really been there. And when he died, I said to Rodney, my husband, you should try and explore. And so we wrote to friends who were then in England to send us ads in the Irish Times, and we chose a farmhouse holiday with people called Coyne in Moya, and we went back because the kids had so much fun. So we came over Armstrong down to my yard, and we went back to her about 5 years in a row. And so then we discovered this bit of the peninsula. I had given Rodney as a Christmas present a very small, sort of wasn't even fibre glass, it was plastic little boat we could put on the top of the car. He discovered sea angling that he got hooked. And that's how we eventually came into this particular, and we'd rent a house or whatever. And Rodney liked to talk to the fishermen and everybody in the pub and learn about the marks, because they didn't read charts. They knew the marks to go to where there was good deep water and there were no hidden rocks and things. So he learned all that. And we were totally wet and stuff in touch to see where my father's home had been. Yes, and then a friend of Rodney's called him and said, the OPW is sending one of the little dwelling houses in the Coast Guard station. You should buy it. The group up there, and he was like, we found the sort of wooden remains of house building there as well. I said, if the tribal tree lived there, he was high up, so he could see enemies come. He had the lake for freshwater fish. He had deer and all sorts of meat sources. He could roast wheat or whatever. So he was completely self-sufficient. It was fascinating. So all of them, all of the prehistoric remains are very human to me. And then I got interested also in the sea and Richard Murphy's poetry. And we took up sailing because the girls and I were sort of left on the beach. And so we bought a mirror dinghy. It's a smaller sailing boat. And we didn't know how to sail or anything. But Caroline, my middle daughter, and I went down to Greystones and got a lesson from the guy who advertised for being in the Irish Times, and he took us out for half an hour. He said, that's how we do it. And we sort of Yes, so he tells us how to, basics of how to say them. I mean, when they said, I just have enough knowledge not to drown. And he pushed us off from the sand just down here. It's a very enclosed piece of water, so we were safe. There's just sand underneath. Right when you lift the first print. Yes, there is. Yes. You have become very close to your all. I used both copper and steel before I came to Connemara, and then I had to give up the steel because it rusts while you come along. Yeah, anyway, I have a couple of big pieces that were on steel. It gives a quite different texture to the print. That is, yes, nice. And then I use aluminium for dry point. Dry point doesn't go into the acid at any time. You can only make short additions because it does flatten, because the ink sticks not only into the groove, but you're turning over like a ploughshare the metal, so the turned over metal gives a soft edge to your line, and that is very important. It gives a sort of slightly magic element to dry point as compared to etching, which all the metal is eaten away by the off acid. Yes, the actual process. The first one happened almost by mistake, that Richard had started the wood turning. He was doing very small pieces, and he one or two he already started laying colour inside. They were small. Only remember there were shelves on that in that shop. We had the birds in the window brought people in, and so then we said, well, that was producing these lovely drawings and painting. Her drawing was so interesting. She also made a couple of prints with me, but she doesn't really relate to it. She said it's too much process. Likes to do something much more immediate. But anyway, she had these pieces, and so we all exhibited together, which was great fun. It's one of John Meehan's sculptures. They cast different sizes of them for the awards that year in Galway. And I got the main award, so many inches bigger than the sort of other awards. That was marvelous, so generous. Sent in list of names of people who'd like to have come. I remember we went into the hall of the hotel where the show was happening there. I met one of my first cousins from Dublin. I said, "What are you doing here?" And she said, "You've been invited. You invited us." So I didn't know who was coming. So that was lovely. And they had lots of people talking. When they eventually came to food, it was very good. And you met people from other disciplines, which was magic. Yes, absolutely. That's what I have a friend who's multi-talented. Anyway, she says that's what she always thinks of when she thinks of me. She said, "You always say that it's not worth doing if it isn't fun." You have to enjoy what you're making, otherwise it's I think it transfers to your work. Yes, you see some very lugubrious work every now and then. It's awfully well done, but it doesn't pull you in. I mean, even though they're sort of very serious, the images of prehistoric religion and things, they are also enjoyable because they become something that's live in a landscape. And I think that is wonderful. Oh, yes, it is, as far as I'm concerned. And I mean, printmaking has brought me to know people I would never have come across afterwards. And printmakers are generous. They're excited to tell somebody when they find a new way of doing something, whereas painters want to be sort of not such a social thing. Yes, in Clifton, they're going to make us, the Action Group, the invited exhibition of the year, and I will be 100 then. So I wish I were, because I'm very fond of Michael D, and I've always been a good neighbour, so I used to um, canvass for him round here. He was so closely associated with Catherine's husband. And when he was being made representative of the former thing, the castle, he got in touch with Catherine, and the minder that Frank had at the time could bring. He was shown where to put the wheelchair so that he could see all the stages of the ceremony. Yes, well, Richard, I didn't know that he was gifted at all. I suddenly went into his bedroom, and here were these miniature plasticine figures in pertinent detail, and they were all of the characters in the Marvel magazine, the Marvel sort of characters. They're amazing. And so I thought, gosh, this guy can draw it in 3D, as it were. And so he was dyslexic. That school seemed a good idea. Anyway, he went to the tech in, it's on the way to the airport. Anyway, they were sort of making people ready to do portfolios. So he was there for a year and he loved it. And so then he applied and he went to NCAD for the first year. And then they have to choose what he wanted to do film eventually. So he went to Dundee. I said to him, I think it might be not a good idea because I left Dundee because they were threatening to censor what I was teaching. I'd been told I had to submit everything to the director. I thought, this is not. That's how I looked for a job, and that's how I came to join the educational faculty at NCAD. And I was there for the next 10 years. Love to have everyone who's had anything to do. Yeah, I'm not sure what kind of. I had a birthday tea party this year, and everybody came and they brought cards, and I didn't want to let them go because they were so unexpected. They assumed it was my birthday. So I don't know what I can do different next year. But you're invited to whatever it is, please. Because you've known that. And they said that he liked getting appreciative letters. Mm-hmm. And that he very often and that his theory was if somebody took the time to write the letter and then take it down to the person posting some kind of recognition. So we sent the letter off, and he did write back. So then we sent him another one because something wrong. He wrote back. Isn't that nice? Apparently, he spends so much time in such part every day to do his letter. The notice that was sent to the English Times was late because it was sent. The telegram took a long time to go to India, and the sort of message that my father wanted my death recorded. It took a few days to come to say 10 of that or so. So we were in the same day in the time, not just the ordinary bit, but the announcement of why they're categorising it, because my father worked for the government and things. So we were the only people on that day.
I was saying happy birthday to Mom. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Mo. Happy birthday to you. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Margaret Nolan. I am an artist living in Galway. I first encountered Mo West out in Clifton about 10 years ago. We both had exhibitions on at the same time at the Clifton Arts Festival, and we began talking. And it turns out that my uncle Patrick McElroy, kind of famous Irish sculptor, actually taught Mo in NCAD back in the day. So we chat a lot about art and about sculpture, and I am delighted to be here for Mo's 100th year exhibition celebration of Margaret Irwin West.
It's great to see you still functioning at your extraordinary age, and I'm catching up with you very soon. And the best of luck with that. This is a lovely show from your former friend.
Oh, congratulations. I'm amazed. I hope, against hope, amazingly unlikely as it is, that I might make the ton myself. But well done to you, and long may you continue. God bless you. I love the work. Great to see you.
So, happy birthday, Mo. This is Una Seeley here. I've known you since the 70s when you taught me art history in Dunleary College of Art. And we have been on many, many painting adventures and skites on various islands off the West Coast. And I've looked at your work over so many years, and how it has you've always sustained that incredible enthusiasm and support for young artists and other artists, and love of life.
Well, hello, Mo. I met you for the first time 20 minutes ago. And I've heard about you for a lot longer than that, because you're related to some of my relations over in England, the Irwins. So anyway, I hope to see you for a bit longer another time, and happy birthday.
I'm delighted to be here to celebrate the opening of your exhibition in the Arts Club, and also to be here for your 100th birthday. Wishing you a happy birthday. Lots of great memories, but first Liz will wish you a happy birthday too.
Hi Mo, that was Mick O'D there, just in case you didn't see his handsome face. This is Liz Rackard here. I remember you well from visiting you over in Galway and also from college. I'm wishing you a wonderful 100th birthday. Lovely to see you and to see your amazing exhibition. Your work is beautiful. So delighted to be here.
And just adding to that, Mo, from knowing you in Dunleary, NCAD, visiting you in your home in Connemara, working out on Innishlack and looking at your exhibitions, enjoying the crack, the parties, and most of all your work. And thank you very much for your amazing contribution. Congratulations. Many more years to come.
Hi, I'm Celia. I'm Mo's eldest daughter. I dabble in painting. I've just retired and I'm doing watercolour classes, so I've a long way to go to catch up. But Mummy has been an inspiration for so many years, and being surrounded by her work, I'm hoping some of it has rubbed off. So I just want to wish Mummy the very happiest of birthdays. We're all so proud of you, and thanks for all the inspiration and very much love.
Okay, so I'm Caroline West. I'm Mo's second daughter. And I live in France, so I'm just back for the birthday celebrations and looking after Mo. I'm very pleased to be doing it. I'm very proud of her and amazed that she can do all this and keep going. And her determination to have these celebrations has been just incredible. And for me, it's wonderful because I'm catching up with people that I don't see very often. Seeing them all come to celebrate Mo is just amazing. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Jim Feeney. I'm how would I say, an almost adopted son of Mo, and I've known her since I was 9 years old. Mo, as they say in Irish, "Ní bheidh dó leithéid do rís." There will never be anybody like you. There are people that stand out in our lives, and we can usually count them. But for me, I have possibly 3 people that stand out in my life that make a huge difference to who I am, and one of those people is Mo. So I owe her a debt of gratitude for her love, her care, her acceptance, and the time she put in for me from 9 years old, and I'm now going to be 65 in a short space of time.
So I'm Sarah. I'm one of Mo's granddaughters. I'm Richard's middle daughter. So yeah, for Mo, gosh, what do you say about Mo? She's just something else. I mean, I feel very lucky to have been able to grow up next to her. So, I mean, my whole life she's been there, and she's just been the presence and the kind of the joy and the inspiration my whole life. So yeah, gosh, she's really something else. I find myself talking about her all the time when I'm not there. I mean, she's just, everyone I know knows about my granny because she's kind of always thinks she's just famous, really, but like in the best way. And yeah, she's always just such good fun. She's great to be around and hear all the very many stories. She has a memory like I don't know what, and she has stories that would fill an entire, I don't know, series of films. You won't be able to fit everything into your film, but yeah.
Happy birthday, Mo. I hope you have the most wonderful day ever and get spoilt rotten. You absolutely deserve it. You are a massive inspiration. You transcend time. Just the most amazing being ever. We're all obsessed with you. Yeah.
A couple of years ago, but it still kind of comes back to me, is just completely unprompted. One day we're having tea and she turned around to me and she said, I think once I stop having fun, then I'm done. But until then, I'm not done having fun. So I'm going to keep going. And I think that says everything you need to know about Mo, really.